All right, I am calling to order the meeting of the Mayor's Task Force Against Domestic Violence. This meeting is being recorded by the task force. If any other persons is present doing the same at this time, please notify us. Good. Okay. Okay, let's do a roll call of members. Amanda,
Here.
Megan,
Here.
Naomi,
Here.
Scott.
Here.
It is here but busy. And then I think the only person we're missing is Katie, I believe. Correct, yes. Alrighty. Minutes, I sent the minutes for February and March because I think I forgot to send the February ones earlier. If any comments or changes or adjustments, I believe Megan was out one of them, so I'll make sure.
Yeah,
that's
listed me as
adjusted.
here and I was like, ooh, look at that.
Perfect. But otherwise, if we're good, I'll just do a quick roll call vote to get those minutes approved. Amanda? For minutes?
Yeah.
Perfect. Naomi?
Yay.
Scott?
Yay.
Megan?
Yay.
And Counselor Perry approving the minutes?
Yes.
Perfect. All righty. So I emailed everyone this morning about the walking map. So they reached out to me, I think it was the 21st of April. Let me get the date. It's telling me that they're almost done. So I was hopeful they would be done for this meeting, but they're not quite done. I reached back again Monday and they said they're just taking a couple of days to finalize it.
I'm surprised because they translated something for me into Bangladeshi in like less than a week.
Really?
So, and that's not like they don't have as many translators.
Maybe that person wasn't very busy.
That's possible,
Let
yeah.
me-
Anyway, I was like, I thought Spanish would be a lot faster. And also, were you doing in Russian, right?
Yes, for both languages.
Okay, yeah. I wonder if it might be because like, yeah, either the,
Yeah, they said they would have had them back to me last Thursday, so maybe just someone's out or
Yes,
something's
that makes
going
sense, yeah.
on.
Yeah.
But I'll keep touch with them and follow up. So definitely by next meeting, we'll have the final copies to go over and we can discuss printing and the logistics of that. Good. Okay, our next donation drive, that's our other kind of new business item, I think, especially now that we're 4 months now, or roughly 5 months away from September, it's good to have kind of preliminary discussions about, I know we discussed earlier having it take place in the September, October window. Has anyone else had additional thoughts about how we should approach things or anything of that nature?
Can we just review what that was again, so I'm not confusing something?
Yeah, so similar, so we did the Winter Carnival donation drive, but it was like a very short, like lead-in time, so it was kind of like a sprint to get everything together. So we discussed wanting to do a donation drive and planning to do it in the fall and using, the months we have ahead of time just to, plan and prepare in preparation. So we have more of a kind of gradual pace into it.
I can talk with Mike Nelson from the fairgrounds to see if we could potentially use that as a option for people to donate.
Yeah, we were definitely thinking that would be a great partnership. And I know Mike's always very eager to, lend a helping hand and
Right.
be involved in community stuff. So
Because usually the police portion is right in the front up to the left. And it's usually like the sheriff's office, the K-9, the police, and then the fire are way around the back. If we use that front area to utilize and people aren't carrying stuff all the way through, we probably could.
That's perfect. So you're saying the donation could be set right with the police? That's perfect,
Yeah,
actually.
we probably could make that happen.
Oh, wow, that would be exceptional.
I'll have to confirm before I
Okay.
do all of that, but yeah, I can talk to Mike and then I'll confirm with my uppers that we don't mind facilitating that area. It's just I would have to make arrangements if there's items there.
Okay.
Store them to get them back.
Sounds good. All right, thanks. That would be excellent.
That's my to-do list.
Anyone else have any other kind of thoughts, ideas on partnerships we can kind of forge with this? Obviously, on the city end, we'll work a lot with the library and the John Zahn But also just seeing where in the community we can kind of expand our reach to and involve as many people as possible.
Yeah, so I can reach out to Rotary and Kiwanis.
Okay. That would be excellent.
Talked about the schools
Yes.
and whether we can use them or not. Maybe, I don't know what kind of fundraising they're doing right off the bat, because we start with the
Right at the start of the school
fair.
year, yeah.
So, but, maybe if we hit them hard, fast, and just get the kids to bring home notices to their parents, I think it could even have information about donating a fair, or
Yeah,
I don't know if school started by then. I think it has.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, kind of a quick hard hit,
mhm.
get a lot of people
Yeah,
in the school.
I think. Do you mind?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't
No,
want to
no.
cut you off. So yesterday it's consent week this week at Frontier.
Mhm.
So yesterday I tabled with Abby Bliss from the CAC, the Children's Advocacy Center. We did a tabling event during all of their lunches. We had a wheel, we asked questions, depending where they landed on the wheel, they were asked a question about healthy relationships, consent, and boundaries. And then we did a little bit of education and promotion with a bunch of CAC stuff. They got to grab some merch that we had from CTC. But these youth, they're doing really great work at Frontier. They have a lot of this in their curriculum. They do the One Love curriculum.
Oh, great. That's great.
And so they were able to answer oh yeah, that, most of them got the right answer. Some of that, one person made a joke and I was like, take this healthy relationship quiz. Or I was like, you should,
Yeah.
right. But I'm middle schoolers, so it can be uncomfy to talk about stuff. But so I think that schools like to have initiatives like this. I know Greenfield has a consent week. And so I think because October is DB month,
Mhm.
I think that this is something we could start promoting. Well, the fair is in September.
Yeah,
So we could start, it's early in September, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's usually that first weekend.
It's the weekend after Labor Day.
Yeah.
It's Labor Day weekend, and the following weekend is the fair.
Because I would love to
Usually
have this
the-
be a project that I work with Greenfield High School.
Mhm.
I think that if I, talk to Karen Patno, the superintendent, about it,
Yeah.
I think she would be open to it if the youth were interested in having a table,
Mhm.
during lunch, and then we just promo and get information, and kids care, they want to donate to things, they want to support their community.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea, doing it kind of within the schools, because then it's, I think, easier access for the students. Like they can just know, hey, I can just bring this into school with me the next day. It's not as much of a,
Mhm.
so I think that's a great idea. I'm happy to email the superintendent's office and kind of start getting that in the works.
That's great.
Do you want me to CC you on that email, Naomi?
I'm going to email.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So the fair is September 5th.
Okay, great. Thank you. It would just be easier because it's gonna be, I work so closely with Karen.
Yeah.
So I think it would be easier if I talk to my youth and my youth either approach her or we approach her all together.
Cool.
His name is.
That makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
That would table at the school. Yeah.
One thing I'm wondering is also, I know that a lot of organizations and schools are all concerned about budget cuts and everything, so it might be good to maybe find out if the schools themselves could use some of the donations back that are generated by the schools,
Yeah.
because in the past, when I had a federal grant that worked within Greenfield, or I worked under a federal grant, it wasn't mine. We used some of the funds to, provide some from things for the schools,
Mhm.
that were, for students.
And that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Rusty.
Yep, for the 4SC grant, yep. And we bought some things specifically that the nurses and counselors thought would be useful. So I'd be interested in finding out what they're saying they could use right now.
Mhm.
They have like some of them already have other sources for hygiene products, but I don't know if that's going to continue. So maybe finding out what's currently needed, and that could help us to know what to ask for. And then once again, what will Nelquit need? What will the family center need?
Right,
Just
Dial
finding out.
Self has what is it, 40% funding cut.
Oh,
Most
yeah.
of that is, their
Staff.
funding cut is their AmeriCorps grants,
Yeah.
which pay for their AmeriCorps members. Because their AmeriCorps members are volunteers, none of them are eligible for, unemployment. As an AmeriCorps alum.
Yep.
Yeah, the AmeriCorps program is getting like really slashed and it's really sad. And it's so weird too because of, anyway, lots of things. Guess I won't say more right now.
Does the high school have morning meeting type thing?
They have advisories,
But yeah, not every,
Gather as a whole group ever.
unless it's intentional though. Unless there's like a,
Sometimes they'll do yeah, but it's for like a spirit week, they'll do like an all school assembly for like certain events that are coming up. But generally speaking, they don't do whole group stuff anymore.
Just as an aside, that's just not good for the community. I'm sorry. That bringing people together is important.
yeah, to build connection.
And I know Turner's they reinstituted it and they did it in the morning, like twice or three times a week, maybe
Oh, wow.
every morning. I can't even remember, but anyway, that would have been a chance for you and I to go in and
Mhm.
with the students and
Yeah.
really promo it. So
It's true.
just keep thinking of
I
what.
will say the cafeteria stuff, at least in Greenfield, is really like, I didn't this year, but the last couple of years, I 2 or 3 years I tabled for their different activity weeks. They have like a wellness week and like
Fun.
and Amy was saying a consent week, they have a healthy relationships week. And we would table and people would really come up and interact. Like most of the students would come up and talk to us. They love that stuff. And so I think that although, yes, it's not like good for the whole community to not have those, I will say in terms of this kind of stuff, I think we would get a lot of chances for, one-to-one engagement. And we can also pair it with some information if we wanted to, like about some of the needs in Greenfield, like that could be normalizing for students whose families are having financial struggles, and then could be eye-opening for students whose families are not.
Yeah.
Like, did you know how common this is? And did you know that you can make a difference kind of thing?
That's a really good point.
So anyway.
Yeah, I just had this idea that I would bring to my youth leaders at Greenfield, like, okay, here's some information, like, this is our idea. What do you think? And then how can we get this information out to your peers? Could we put it into the announcements? Because some of them do give morning announcements. And then do you want to come up with a few sentences to make everyone more aware that this is what's happening in our community? Not necessarily like 1 in 4, like not, but what would be youth appropriate, youth friendly, that wouldn't cause any chaos in the building or like make kids be like, you're poor, you're poor, you're poor. Like, we don't need that.
No.
That's a great idea.
Are we changing like our focal point of what we're looking for donations, or we're waiting to get information from other places first? Like what's our,
I think it'll be good to hear from, especially if we plan on giving some of the stuff back to the schools. I think it'd be good hearing from them, just get some input on them, from them, about some items. But I think I think the foundation that we have is pretty good, but we can also find areas, things to add.
Yeah.
So.
people always take those lists pretty like slowly too.
Yeah.
So it's like anytime you hold a canned food drive and you're like, please, not just your green beans. And everybody inevitably. is
Tin
like,
cans of green beans.
yeah, like great, yes, people will really appreciate those, thank you. It's like peanut butter. Peanut butter is
What
actually
do
a big
you
one.
see the people who are in need at that moment, in the moment? What's their biggest needs when they come to you?
Yes,
In
so many.
terms of this,
But we find that people want to give like travel size, and that's not helpful actually, because it's such a small amount, and what we're seeing is that people are in crisis for a lot longer than like 2 days. So then in just 2 days, they're back in the same situation where they don't have like personal care needs. Like people want to feel clean for the most part, and so it's all of the basic goods that are like shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, wipes. If they're experiencing homelessness is really helpful because they like need a way to freshen up, but don't have access to a shower typically. they're living out of their car, like same thing. Toothpaste and toothbrush, like people are trying to just keep, or people will take mouthwash a lot, which can be misused, but those travel size would be fine. But it's a way without running water to be able, and we have people who are in houses that don't have running water. Like that's the other piece is like there are housed people whose like water has been shut off or it's not working properly or the well ran dry and they can't afford to fix it. So they're running like they're living in a less functional home than I think most people would expect.
Yeah.
But it's really just the basic needs. And then when we have people staying in hotels, we're working to build our like microwave friendly foods that are also like trying to pair it with like nutritional options because the food bank is mostly like canned goods, like the
to
items
make a meal
provide
with.
exactly. It's like they've got, but they don't have oils, they don't have spices, they're not, it's like asking someone to take dry pasta and then add like powdered milk in and then like canned veggies, like the ultimate final product is not one where you're like, scrumptious. Like that's
Yeah.
so we keep trying to find ways to like when we do a donation drive that's individuals, it's like please spices, if you can get jelly and peanut butter and little like microwavable meals because that's what people have access to in a hotel is a microwave and a mini fridge and a very tiny freezer. And we actually have an intern this summer who's going to be working on like nutrition options for people who are like in transitional housing situations and putting together like lists of like grab these 8 items
That's great.
and you'll be able to make these 2 or 3 meals.
Do you know about the cookbook that came out a few years ago that was specifically like written because of all the families who were in hotels and it's about what you could cook in a microwave?
I think we reviewed it before, but we don't have any copies of it, so that would be helpful. And also like the food bank is a great resource and that's where we get a lot of our goods, but they don't have as many microwave friendly options. They're still very much on like the stovetop model.
Yeah. No, that's great. I think that's super helpful to have that list of 8 things. Like I know a lot of people love the little soup cups that you can just put hot water in. Or like you were saying about sometimes things that come in jars, even though they're breakable, are like great as opposed to just like the canned stuff. So like a jar of pasta sauce is so much nicer because actually that plus like pasta is
It's very nice,
not
but like
bad.
canned pasta sauce typically tastes like the can.
Exactly, yeah, and so that's why jarred, yeah, exactly, that's why like
Yeah.
I would talk about that, how the jar ones are better, and I think you're like bringing up a really important thing, which I really found so strongly when I worked in direct service, which is that there's sometimes this feeling from, this is not true for everybody, but definitely some feeling from people who are donating that like, these people should just be grateful for whatever we give them, and like, that they shouldn't have like preferences or like care about things, or like, I don't know, just that they're not like fully human and like me kind of feeling. And that idea that like actually people do still need to like have something that their kids will eat or like something that they don't hate, like that's like really an okay thing, just like any of us would want. And so I appreciate you bringing that up. And I think that like, I think that I think that maybe a little bit of education around that is super helpful.
Exactly, because, it's an opportunity for you to lead or you and I, Brian, partnering with you again.
Love it.
Just to go in and just, I'm dragging Amanda along with a couple of people I want her to meet to talk about getting into the schools and getting like an assembly where the kids present to them. There's domestic violence here. And this is what it is. And it's not to be afraid of it, but we need to address it. And how many of you sitting in that audience there have been part of it? And there is a group out there. I mean, we all know that. So,
Yeah, I think there is some curriculum that health teachers are working on. And I think there's a variety of ways to approach this topic. I personally feel like we should be mindful of an assembly setting. Like there is a way to have a conversation, but I know as a child who witnessed domestic violence in my home, that would have been very intense for me to sit there around all my friends trying to be like, I'm fine. Oh my gosh, I'm fine,
They're
right?
like, what is this even about? I have
Yeah.
no
I
idea.
have no idea. I hit my friends on the arm all the time, right? Like trying to, and so I just want to be mindful of that piece.
Yeah.
I definitely think there's a multitude of ways that we can get this information out to them. Even if it is tabling, like you just hope that like youth leave understanding that like, you know, understanding maybe what consent means or just hearing that information over and over again.
I sat through when I went back to grad school, I was in charge of freshmen and I like had to corral them to the stadium because it was still COVID restrictions. So it was outdoor. It was supposed to be their like sexual assault awareness and prevention. And they hired these people who did like a skit and they were like acting it out and some of it was like humorous. And people were laughing in the stands and people were talking in groups. And I just like looked around and there were some people who were so clearly like staring into the distance or looking deeply uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm sure those people are the ones who've already experienced sexual assault because it happens in high school, happens in middle school, happens younger. And they are now witnessing all like 2,000 of their peers fuck around while this is happening, not taking it seriously, laughing. And so it's making them feel one, isolated in the experience they have had. Cause they're, and then two, it's like, no one here cares about this.
Right.
Everyone thinks it's a joke and it's not safe for me to like talk about this. It's not safe for me. I don't feel like people take me serious. I'm never gonna bring this up. It was like so horrifically bad that I spent the next week like yelling at the Res Life people. I was like, who booked this? Why did we think this was okay? No one was going to learn anything. Like you did the Title IX requirement, you checked that box, but it's a disgrace.
Yeah.
And so it just like when you do think you have to be really thoughtful about like, well, who here has already experienced something like this and sitting in their peer, like with their peers in bleachers, is that going to have like, what are we presenting and why?
I think smaller cohorts of youth.
Yeah.
I saw, and if it's youth led.
And who's presenting, like you
Yeah,
say.
it does make a difference.
If there's somebody the kids trust,
Yeah.
then the message gets through.
Right.
But if it's just a.
Right, and it's like,
random-
what is the focus? Like, what is the message we're trying to impart? Because like going up there and spewing a bunch of like saying like domestic violence happens and it's 1 in 4 women will experience sexual violence and 1 in 9 men and it's like that I can see how quickly that gets spun into like ways to tease each other or like the packaging I think has to be very thoughtful. There's a lot of national groups who are doing it. I think you're exactly right that it's gotta be connective, like the person who's presenting has to have some connection to like youth already. Like there's gotta be some buy-in because I don't know how many of you sat through a health class where someone came in and you're like, I'm not talking about this and I don't take this person seriously because I don't know them.
Yeah, I had a massive wheel and lifesavers and a bunch of like random things like CTC has wooden spoons for cooking. And then we quickly regretted handing them out to 7th and 8th grade.
Oh.
And we just apologized to the staff, like, hey, sorry. Whoops.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, my mom would love this. And then they're just like.
The oven mitt.
Yeah, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
mitts too.
Okay.
But I think I think this is really like good stuff to think about. I do think that Scott's piece about like the community building aspect, like figuring out some way to weave that in, whether it's with like, a big group or a small group, I think can help in terms of protective factors. There are also some really good evidence-based curricula out there for violence prevention and active bystander intervention.
Yeah.
So that's also something to consider. I think at some point we might even think about for, whether if the Greenfield Public Schools has an interest, we would want to use some of the money from this group to fund like buying a curriculum or something that is an evidence-based one, or having, a group come in that does do evidence-based work. So, yeah.
May 13th, TAB Training Active Bystanders is going into Greenfield Public Schools, which is great.
Yeah, I remember
So
hearing
we'll be
about
doing
that.
that.
Yeah, that's great.
Who they hitting?
High school.
So what is what's their,
I'm actually going to Shadow to learn more, but
Mhm.
Cab is by North Quabbin. Is it North?
Yeah, North Quabbin Mediation Center, and I've done sort of one of their little tiny introductory trainings years ago. It's basically just act like positive active bystander skills, so it's kind of like, you know, if you're around and you see this, like what are some options for how to respond? If you feel safe, you could do this. If you don't feel safe in the moment, could you follow up with a person? Could you talk to an adult? Like just all the different things that and it's that sort of starting to kind of build the muscle of like responding as opposed to like freezing or fighting, you know,
Yeah.
when we see things that are not okay. And it's like relates to everything from bullying to violence to disrespectful comments to like racist and homophobic comments to like, so it could be at sort of any of the things that like we work on that are related to, healthy relationships. But it also is sort of a variety of other types of topics too. So
I'm gonna see if Greenfield has One Love. I'm not sure if they do.
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so either.
Yeah, that would
be really.
That would be really awesome. I don't know if people here are familiar with One Love, but they're a great organization. They're a national organization, but they're based
National.
in Brooklyn, I think. And they do they have like a great healthy relationships curriculum. I thought it was free, but maybe it's not. Anyway, they do provide workshops and like those that cost money, but they tend to be really well received by young people. They have a really like young, diverse staff that's very good at talking with.
I wonder if our program, right now CTC has $3,000 that can go up to $3,000 for each school district.
That would be a cool potential use for it.
Yeah, because I saw the conversation, like how youth did have this information at Frontier yesterday through One Love.
That's cool.
And some of them, I'm a One Love leader. I learned, I did my one,
gosh.
yeah, it was sweet. So,
That's awesome. They're really proud of it. That's
yes.
cool.
So that's a good sign, I think. My opinion. And I think that gets us really onto the prevention and education side of things. I think it would really be beneficial to our youth.
Well, and in the past, years ago, the Mayor's Task Force did support some prevention education in the schools, and so did Nelquit. But I actually didn't like the play that they were supporting. It was The Yellow Dress. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that.
It's so funny you said that. I have that written down.
seen that.
That's,
It's like super not trauma informed. I know we're really getting outside the agenda, so we can.
No, I think this is a great discussion to have because it's important that we're very intentional with the resources
Okay.
that we're picking. So I
Okay,
think it's a
good.
great conversation.
Yeah, The Yellow Dress is like this, it's a play that, it's this, like high school student and she's wearing a yellow dress and she's talking about how it was like prom night, I think, and she's in this relationship with this guy and she's talking about it. And then how like, then she ended up breaking up with him and then he's like, I want to, just talk to you one last time. So she goes with him in the car and then she comes back out. There's like a brief, somehow a break or something. She comes back out and her dress is all covered in what looks like blood. And it turns out that she's dead and he's killed her and she's talking to you as a ghost because he killed her in the car.
Very like Sixth Sense.
It's very, yeah. And so it's like it's one of those things that's like, sort of back in the day, the idea that prevention education would would work if it was like scare tactic-y and really like made an impact and be like really intense. It has that sort of like, that or like the really intense parts of vagina monologues kind of feeling where it's like trauma's really bad and it could happen to you or your friend. You better not let it happen. Like that sort of, so some people really liked the play because it was like intense, but I was really like, I don't want to be supporting this anymore. So we stopped doing The Yellow Dress through Nelquit when I was there. So, but I think, but I do think that there are other options,
Mal, our community organizer and educator, has been doing like red flags, green flags, like healthy relationships using some of the social media, like oh, there's that guy. What's his name?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
runs
the
through
guy.
field with the flag.
Exactly.
I actually
Oh, yeah.
love him.
It's so great. And we're trying to make this like information more like fun and engaging to
Yes.
digest and like not traumatic, but like very basic
Like healthy boundaries actually exist in all of your relationships. So how do you tell your friends if how they're making you feel, if you're feeling like there's conflict, or if you feel like they're transgressing a boundary, like saying this would happen in middle school. When I was in middle school, we were like, we're wearing blue tomorrow, and if you don't wear blue tomorrow, you're not my friend anymore. And it's like, we're eating salads this week, which is a very funny one. My friend told me, she's like, we just kept eating salad and we were so hungry because our one friend was like, this is what we have to do. And it's like power and control in between middle school people is so real. And so like, if you don't know how to state like, I'm actually not comfortable with this, or that makes me feel weird. Because it doesn't have to be as intense as like, you're making me uncomfortable. It's like, all right, let's pump brakes
Yeah.
here. I can wear green, you can wear blue. We're still friends.
But I have to say that in this room, Scott was the only one who didn't bow to peer pressure because the rest of us are wearing.
That's your. Denim day. It's denim day. I do not.
I'm just
do-
completely unaware.
But we've been doing those and we've had the most luck going to like VOCs, valuing our children's tween group and Four Rivers Charter School, and like just like we have had a hard time getting to like the Greenfield public schools or like the Turners schools. So they're like a tough nut to crack. Which could be because of like historic, like maybe we were
I don't think-
committing a little trauma.
No, I don't think Millwood was really in Greenfield. That was like, that play was, I think, shown a lot in Ethel.
Good,
through
very
Millwood.
good.
But I don't think that, but I do think that there have been some other groups that did go into Greenfield that were not always aware of what was sort of developmentally appropriate, or there were some things that didn't work well for the administration for understandable reasons. So.
Yeah, we have like a consent and cookies curriculum that like a local person made for, and that's like scalable for between like 10, 11, 12-year-olds up to college.
Yeah.
And the point is exactly to do things that are like developmentally appropriate. Like you don't want to jump out of the gate at 9 and be like, rape is a problem, because that's not gonna land. And also that's not necessarily what the majority of people need to take in. I mean, it is, but that's not how we are. That's, you scale it, you scalable and like things that people, like tools that people can use to help communicate their needs or identify when things are not appropriate.
Yeah.
Or don't make them feel like safe, or it's like if somebody's offering this, like technology is like a training, tech safety is a training that every child needs from like honestly 7 and up.
Yep.
And I
Start even lower.
yeah, we're just like, it's like, and it's just lagging because the public schools can't keep up with all of the technological innovations. And I don't know what their like tech safety content is for students right now.
Yeah, there is part of, that is part of the program support for schools. So that create like various curriculum and resources we included in that. So if they needed to pay to have a speaker come in or get some curriculum,
Yeah,
there's funds to support that.
the National
mitigating harms.
Organization for
NECMEC.
yeah,
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Definitely.
The other endpoint here is that we can do all this stuff, but we gotta have the infrastructure within the school. For when we or somebody walks out the door, where are these kids gonna go?
Yeah.
Who are they gonna see? Who are they gonna talk to? And that's why the strength is if you have a trusted individual and
Yeah. I think the counseling
or
team at,
kids.
I think the counseling team at Greenfield right now is really, like they really do know about this stuff. And I'd say the same thing at Four Rivers too, like they have the capacity to talk about this stuff.
I'm sorry to take up so much airtime, but there's so many resources that popped into my mind when you said that, because I was just at the Massachusetts Suicide Prevention Conference last week. And that reminds me of schools. Have you heard of the Post-it? So like the school staff have Post-its and there's children's names all up on the wall, and they go around and put a Post-it for each student that they feel like they have a solid
Oh,
relationship with.
yes, that's such.
And
yes.
it's like very eye-opening to
Great
see the
activity.
youth that like don't have a Post-it at all.
Yes.
And I think that's something important. I mean,
Yeah,
and I'm
Enfield does that one, or at least they did a few years ago. I don't know
Yeah.
if they still do. That's a great
so
great
important.
activity.
I mean, because those were majority of the students I saw when I worked at the DA's office were the students that didn't have they're like, I can't think of one person.
Oh.
So I was like, not even like, I don't know,
Yeah.
the lunch lady,
Yeah.
please, it's like sugar. So there's that. I'm seeing Karen on Friday. We'll see her Friday. And so I'll be able to talk with her, for just run it by her and then I'll follow up with her via email.
Okay.
And then what else was I thinking? So I went to a murder suicide seminar when I was at this. It was really interesting and holy cow, intense. Anyways,
Because that's mostly intimate partner.
what's interesting is they taught me there's 3 different categories,
Well, there are.
which was fascinating. So like, yeah, it's intimate partner, but I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize there's more, anyways, doesn't matter. So I got a great resource in case, hopefully our community is not affected by something like that soon, but I have a great resource in case that happens. So,
Will you share it?
yes.
We're working on a fatality protocol right now, which is not my favorite protocol, but it's important to plan.
You
So
gotta
like, how
have
do
it.
we respond
Yeah.
if there's a fatality that's not a client of Nelquit, if they were a client of Nelquit, like how do we proceed? In the 80s, there were several, and the Mary Coachella, who used to be Katie Rosewarne, presided over those 4, and they did different things like held a vigil and like wrote an op-ed, provided support to the family and tried to mediate the level of engagement that the surviving family members experience. But there's like no written protocol anywhere of like first step, this step, that step, so that when that happened, like contact the police and.
That'd be good.
Well, I
to
mean,
coordinate.
generally speaking, we would be there first, probably.
Yeah.
No, just like,
I'm just saying.
no, just in terms of like response when the information.
So what I
came.
would say is, because we partner with CSO, that should get that ball rolling of
Yeah.
some sort of notification of services of whatever that looks like. But then also in those type, Katie gets contacted, like the DA's office they're immediately in the loop of everything that's going on. So I would wonder if there is something that's just written on like the law enforcement side. We have a whole DV
Be good
protocol
to
that.
coordinate.
Yeah, let me look into that a little bit. We're doing all of this accreditation stuff, so I've been reading policies and all sort of things.
Fun.
Like they all kind of are like jello. But I'm just curious, obviously, because we obviously contact the DA's office, but what they do from there, I would assume that Katie would be talking with Aaron at DVIP, and then wherever things go from there is totally out of my realm.
Yeah.
But I know CSO would be involved on our end.
Yeah, we've talked about also adding, we don't typically collect an emergency contact for our clients. But it's like, in the case of an emergency, would like for our we have specific clients who we consider high risk. And it's like, how would you like, if we don't hear from you, or if we hear that something has happened, is there someone you would want us to contact on your behalf? Because there's our confidentiality rules. So if they don't agree to it, we're not gonna reach out. But they might have like specific people that they want us to be in contact with, so.
Yeah, I actually think that's a great protocol to have. I have worked places where like, if someone is more high risk, then we've said, is there someone you'd like us to contact, and what would this condition be? And it might be like, if you can't reach me for 3 days, or if like whatever, so they would get to sort of dictate what some of those possible things are, and that really was helpful. Because there have been a couple of times where like, I did have to reach out, and it was so great to have emergency contact, and like, luckily the 2 times that I did, the person like just like their phone was like lost or destroyed by an abuser. And so that was why they weren't getting back, because they didn't have access to their phone. But of course, we didn't know that. Yeah.
Just to go a little backward design, Meg, what, from the police, your chair in the police station, what do you see as the community's biggest issue around DV?
I think a lot of it is that people can't leave because there's nowhere to go. So we literally just had someone in the lobby yesterday that was saying like, this is a super unhealthy relationship, but we live in the same place. We're both on the lease. I'm behind on rent, so blah, blah, blah. And it is literally finding an appropriate place where they can go when they need to leave.
Yep.
And there's the housing shortage, as we all know, is a crisis. There's no affordable options. People are trapped within a lease. There are all sorts of things there. So that is the 100% the thing. And then what ends up happening is people resort to the restraining order option, which has its total value, but oftentimes that's used as a means to then kick somebody else out. And they're temporary. That restraining order is only until the next court date. Sometimes they're only till 7 days, like, and so it's just this constant.
So that can inform our bigger thinking as we try to educate and do everything.
Yeah, and the issue is that, as Amanda knows, the funding to get people housed is so limited and there's nowhere for them to go
Yeah.
anymore.
And there like so first there aren't enough housing vouchers, but now through the COC, the continuum of care, they'll give vouchers, but what we're seeing is the same voucher is being given to one person. They go out, try and find housing. They can't, they hit their time limit. It gets returned to the COC. They're giving it to a second person. That the last voucher one of our clients received had been recycled 4 times. So
They
3
couldn't- yep.
people previously had gone out and based on it was like it's like a right to work voucher. And so you have to have a job and then, which is totally is fine, this person had a job, but they also had to have a certified lead-free apartment. And so it's like, of the housing stock that is available, the number of landlords that are meeting the requirements for housing so low. And they're also like, if there's got to be an inspection, that delays things. It also puts landlords off from taking the voucher because there's all these hoops they have to jump through. Even though the money is guaranteed, they don't want to be, they also don't want to be involved in a system where a tenant could like sue them for being for lack of a better term, like, yeah, non-compliance, thank you. I was gonna
You're
say-
welcome. I was gonna help you.
Yeah, I was like,
Not to derail us, but if we sit here and what our charge is as a domestic violence task force in Greenfield, if this is our biggest, the 2 people who are, I'm gonna argue, are most intimately involved with it. If this is our biggest issue, should we,
Be focusing on that, sorry.
yeah, should we be focusing on that and, you know, yes, it's great to raise all these things and give to people, but maybe we should be putting our energies into finding, look, I'm the Pollyanna, but the craziest, greatest way to start housing these people, whether it's through grants or volunteerism, or look, I know the legalities of all this, I understand that, but we got to start somewhere. And if you're saying this is it,
we're
this is it.
working. The United Arc and I have been working to try and find out if we could do like a collaborative housing, like supportive housing model and purchase a property that's for sale and then be able to house like people who are DV survivors and also people who have intellectual and developmental disabilities who can live alone, but like need some support. And we were also hoping that like seniors who need to move to another, like who need to downsize into a safer facility where they also could have some support, but also have independent living. Like if those 3 populations, which is a lot of Franklin County, honestly. If those 3 populations, if it would make it easier to finance, to run, to spread like the administrative burden, like honestly running a domestic violence shelter, the traditional shelter model is really flawed because it's often like a shared living space. So people get one room in what is essentially a house and they're sharing a living room and a bathroom and all these common spaces. It's not psychologically safe. Also, all those people are strangers who have extreme trauma. So it's like, and then you like, and then people are saying like, who drank my milk? And like, that's
It's
just
almost like you need
conflict.
like efficiency apartments rather.
Exactly.
So like
And
that's
so
the
that's-
model at 12 Mile Street is all efficiency apartments, like something like that would be more appropriate with maybe like a support staff at
Absolutely.
present, like, but that, to come across something like that, like I love the idea of it, but there are already a million agencies trying to figure that out and it hasn't happened yet. And
The
it's not
only
getting
thing-
any
yeah.
better.
The only thing we found is like, it's like $3.4 million to purchase. So we would need like, and like the treehouse model in East Hampton is really incredible. They have housing for seniors and people who are foster parents or have been involved in the foster care system. And they're all like little houses and they have programming and they support each other through like the challenges. They've existed for 19 years. It's honestly, if you get the chance to drive
That's
through,
great.
I went to a
That's a
panel
great
and I was
program.
like,
That's
it's
really
so-
cool. I don't
And
think I've ever heard of
they
that.
were trying to create another one in like Long Meadow, but the issue is that federal grants cannot be depended upon right now, especially through HUD. So a lot of things that were slated to happen in Greenfield to increase the housing stock are stalled indefinitely until the answer about where that HUD funding, if it's gonna come through or not. So that's the challenge, is like there's but 3 to 5 years, if all the projects plans went through, it would not be such a dire situation. But if none of those projects go through, the crisis is actually just like intensifying. Like we just had someone in a hotel for like 3.5 weeks. We spent $3,000 on their hotel stay, and that was one person. And like, we don't have the funds to keep doing that. And the state also only gives us $10,000 for flexible funds, which is what we use for emergency assistance for survivors. We hit that 10,000 mark in like the middle of October and our fiscal year starts in July 1st. Yeah. So we're spending, and it's like people need air conditioning units because they can't survive in the heat and they're low income and they're, it's like sometimes the people who are coming to us, they're not in an active domestic violence situation, but their circumstances now are heavily impacted by their domestic violence situation. So once you become a client of ours, we're trying to figure out how to help you as best we can, but it's like economic resource is the name of the game. Like people need money.
Yeah. In my dream world, we would get a donation from one of those alum from Deerfield Academy,
Right,
there's
yeah,
always.
it's like
Oh,
some
my God,
that is
random,
like
thing that's
$50
like,
million
Yeah.
to.
Can you
Mount
imagine?
Vernon.
Academy. Look around.
so to circle back, from a realist, because I have to
Yes.
go soon.
Yes.
I think, so our focus right now is we're talking about what our future plan is for like September, October. Do we have anything from now until then?
No specific events of any kind,
Okay.
no.
Do we normally participate in Juneteenth? I don't remember if that's a thing.
I know, Pride Parade we'll definitely, our office will be marching in, so everyone is more than
When
welcome
is
to
that one?
attend.
Do you know?
It's, I
Probably
think
have it in one of these
June.
calendars.
I can email everyone about it, but it's June 7th, yeah.
June 7th. It's not in my calendar. So yeah, we'll add.
I'll send
that.
everyone an email with all of the
So
background
that's
info.
Pride Parade.
And then I can, if we can touch base with our next meeting if people are interested, but I can already talk with Empress to see
Yeah.
what the appetite would be.
I know as far as the police side is concerned, like I'm involved in Juneteenth from the police function. So I just didn't know if you guys were doing anything,
Yeah.
like as if we had talked about that.
Melquit typically tables, so if
Yeah.
the task force can't show up, we can put up the banner
Our little
next
banner.
to.
So when is our next meeting? What date is that? The 21st or 28th? Is it the third or fourth week?
It's usually the 4th, so the 28th.
So the 28th, okay.
Trying to figure out the next meeting time.
Yeah, because then that'll actually be good to find out if anyone is then gonna join in on the 7th. Because that'll be right before then, so.
It'll be gone.
So what date are you looking at for the
Vacation?
next meeting?
The
20.
Yeah, that's what I had in my calendar.
So I just wanted to
Doing that one.
confirm on
Oh,
my
good.
end, that's all.
Great.
Oh, wait, no, I won't.
June, and do you know what time the parade is on June 7th?
11. I have actually, the parade, so the parade starts at 12, lineup is 11:30.
I'm not sure I will be present for that, but I have 3 other things on that day already.
I have a hard time with stuff like that.
I hear you. So, cool.
All right.
Sounds good. Any final thoughts for adjournment?
I thought the flag raising event went really well.
Me too. Great
That was
turnout.
good.
Yeah,
Good, glad that people were present.
me too.
Other than that, I got nothing.
Perfect.
Apologize, I was in Egypt.
Well, don't apologize for being in Egypt. I feel like we're apologizing for not being there with you. That
I
really
love
should have been a
that.
full
Liz
functioning
is like,
event
I
with all
gotta
of
go.
us. See ya.
All right. So we are adjourning the mayor's task force against domestic violence meeting at 12:01 PM. Thank you.